Hello everybody, welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed. Welcome to a new weekly episode, and today's episode is called Adam and Eve. And I'm probably wondering, what am I going on about? Well, after playing a lot of Odyssey and a lot of Origins, I've to go stumble down memory lane back to Assassin's Creed 2, where they showed us Adam and Eve, the first humans that their DNA was mutated, and they were able to overcome the side effects of the pieces of Eden that the Isu civilization were using to control them. And in this episode, I'm deciding to look at why now is the perfect time to revisit Adam and Eve, and why we should now be focusing on a game, a comic, or a TV show based around, well, their life. So let's dive in. So, quick overview if you're new and you've just jumped in through Origins and Odyssey. Who are Adam and Eve, and what impact do they actually have on the game? Well, many years ago, the Isu reigned supreme. It was a civilization of Homo sapien divinus, as Abstergo called them. They were not only scientifically advanced, they were intellectually advanced, and their biology was more advanced than a human being. And now, power must have gone to the head. I don't really understand the whole mechanisms, but they created the humans as slave race to do their bidding, and to make sure that any slave race is kept in control, they created what is known as the pieces of Eden. For example, like the Apple of Eden, the Trident, and other precursor artifacts as they're known by Abstergo. You can check out my old episode, Pieces of Eden Part 1, 2 and 3, and I'll go over some known Pieces of Eden for you if you want to know a bit more, but let's ignore that for now. So during this time, there was two humans, Adam and Eve, and they had the DNA which was mutated. I did do a bit of research, but I can't remember why it was mutated. But this mutation led to them being immune to the effects of the Piece of Eden, and this started a revolution, and it was known as the 10-Year War. And this revolution was basically the humans pushing against the Isu for essentially civil rights and the rights to live. And that is pretty much what Assassin's Creed is always about. The Assassins are always trying to push the Templars away to give freedom for humans, because they want freedom. They want power through freedom, but Templars want power through control. Which is kind of a weird, how can they have power through freedom? But it's what they wanted, and that's essentially the small ideology of Assassins, and something happened, the Great Catastrophe happened, if any of you have followed the law, and that wiped out the Isu and the humans. And because of this wipeout, they had to start again. When they started again, the Isu had to integrate with the humans that they had sorely despised, even though a group of them did support them. And they created this new race, where naturally, instead of it being a genetic mutation, humans now automatically have the ability to have high concentration of triple helix DNA, which is what is known as Isu DNA, and that gives you the ability to be in control or without getting affected by Piece of Eden. So Desmond Miles from 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 Proposed Revelation 3, he had enough precursor DNA, so he was able to wield the piece of Apple of Eden. Ezio and Altair were the same, and so they give you a sense of how strong humans can be. The moment Leila Hassan is using the Spear of Pythagoras, but I cannot for the life of me pronounce the full name, and she's not affected. Now, I don't really know if that's because of her piece of DNA or not, but I'm going off topic again. So why do I think now is a perfect time to visit Adam and Eve? Well, it's kind of simple. when we look at what Assassin's Creed's been doing, they've always had a cut and paste story. Assassins be Templars, Assassins be Templars. 1 till 3 had this overall arc that a great catastrophe was coming and the Isu were getting involved. And that was great, and it climaxed at 3. 4 to Syndicate, well, 4 and 5, 4 and Unity mainly, had the Sage arc that disappeared quickly. Then there was Juno coming back, which ended in the comics, which was a letdown. So Assassin's Creed's had no arc to follow for ages. But Origins, however, started dipping its toes a bit more into the Isu technology, and it was the birth of the Brotherhood. We saw Bayek find more precursor sites and learn a bit more. Then Odyssey grabbed hold of the Isu lore and threw it in our faces by giving us a story where Afia wants to come back. They want Isu to stop being involved and start helping. So there must be alive somewhere, I don't know. And this means that now is the perfect opportunity to go back to the start. If the Isu are coming out the woodwork to stop sitting on the sidelines and now interfere, because essentially there's a war coming where assassins can't win and Templars can't win, because you cannot have chaos without order, for example, and that's essentially what it is. Assassins are chaos and Templars are order, and you can't have one without the other, and if one of them wins, the whole world ends. So maybe now, if the next game, it doesn't have to be a whole game based off it. What it could be is a game like Rogue. It was created as a tie-in between old gen and next gen, and we could have that as a tie-in, maybe a 15-20 hour game that's like a standalone DLC that goes through the 10-year war in stages. So maybe like an episodic title. I know it sounds daft, but bear with me, because I've did it with the platform in the Chronicles, but just imagine an episodic title that's just a offshoot. It's not a main game, it's just an offshoot where you follow Adam and Eve all the way through to the end of the 10-year war, what happened to them, and why their ideology was so important. Because we know after the Great Catastrophe and humans started again, a cult, I think it was called the Cult of Cain, started up, and they were a very pseudo Templar order. You know, they had the roots of Templar knowledge. And it wasn't until the Cult of Cosmos and Odyssey that they started getting more formed because of your actions, and then by Origins they had a more noticeable order. And so maybe Adam and Eve did the same. Maybe what we don't know is hidden away in all this history that we've not talked about is a pseudo assassin order based off Adam and Eve. And maybe now that we're deciding to take a look into the fantasy side of Assassin's Creed over just history, maybe now's the best time to get Adam and Eve back into the spotlight and show a bit more of what caused the human revolution with the Isu, why that's so deeply important for our time in the game. Because if you took out Adam and Eve and you took out Isu, Assassin's Creed would not be what it is. And them two people are the pillar of this entire franchise. And I'm not saying like, you know, it's all based off it, but if you look at the franchise as a whole, there's several pillars. There's Assassins, there's historical, there's Isu, there's Templars, and then of course there's Adam and Eve, because it was their mutational DNA that led up to humans being free from the control. And it was probably that revolution that caused, because if that revolution didn't actually happen, if I remember correctly, they would have been so fixated on doing what they needed to do, they would not have built the Templars properly to survive the Great Catastrophe. But because they're in wartime, it wasn't forefront. And I could be wrong, I'm just trying to remember what's caught in my head, because the lore around Adam and Eve is just what you get from Assassin's Creed 2, so it is a bit murky. And I think that murkiness isn't fair, because a lot of people are coming into Assassin's Creed now, new, and they just want to explore, they want to see what's like. But there's a ton of stories out there that's missing. There's Adam and Eve, there's Ezio Auditore di Firenze, there's Altair, and all them all tie in, and it all begins with Adam and Eve. And I'm starting to realise I'm probably rambling because my script's run out. This is what happens. I kind of deleted my script before I started, so I apologise for the ramblings. So let's get back on topic. Why is Adam and Eve so important now? We're in 2020. The next game's on the line, Ragnarok. Why is it so important for Assassin's Creed to revisit Adam and Eve? And the simple answer is, if we're looking at the Isu law and we're going back to the birth of the Brotherhood, why don't we go back to the birth of the ideology of freedom through free will, not freedom through power, just like the Isu was offering? So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a unique one for me to research, and it's been a bit of a struggle trying to integrate on that Anchor because I'm quite new to this software. I'm loving it. Next week is one of my favourite topics I've been studying, and we're going to do a deep dive into the assassins. So we're going to go from Altair up to Cassandra, and we're going to look at what makes them unique and what impact it had on the story. And to make this a bit more interesting, if you hop over to my social media, Assassin's Creed on Facebook, Let's Talk Assassin's Creed Community, or my Twitter @LetCreed, you'll see there's a little new message that I posted today, which today being Saturday the 25th of April, just in case you listen to it on Sunday or sometime this week. And that message has a link to a voice messaging service that Anchor does, and what I would love is you to send me a voice message with your name and just with the question of who is your favourite assassin, because I would love to do a deep dive on the assassins and at the very end include everybody's personal favourite assassin. And all you need to just say is simple, who's your favourite assassin and why you love them. You don't need to do your name. I like names, I'm weird, I'm Declan. Names make us all friendly, so if you do that, that'd be fantastic. If you're not able to, then it's alright. So thanks for all listening, and I'll see you next Saturday.